Birds of paradise are one of the more exciting groups of birds. They're members of the passerine family, which are the same things as the things like the small garden birds that you'll see. Things like blackbirds and blue tits and wrens, all of those kind of smaller birds which sing and kind of perch in trees. They are the passerines. Now, the birds of paradise are some particularly beautiful examples. I mean, the kind of males can be very showy, very brightly coloured. They can have these bright iridescent patches on them which reflect ultraviolet light as well as visible light. So although we can't see just how magnificent they are, the females can really check them out and see into a whole different part of the visual spectrum and see like this incredible light show as well as the colours that we can see. So it's pretty amazing birds. And they have all these sorts of exciting courtship displays and so on, which it's very hard to reproduce in a taxidermy museum specimen, but people have tried. So we have some examples, which you'll be able to see through the video, of displays where you have various different male birds of paradise displaying and a few females who are a bit more drab-coloured, watching in, I'll say awe, but maybe slightly disappointed expectation. This one here looks just a bit miserable. So these birds are not on display at the moment for the public. So we have them here in the physical space of the museum, and you can just about kind of catch them out the corner of your eye from down in the mammal floor on the first floor. But unfortunately, because of safety reasons, we can't open the balconies at the moment. And this is something that we're hoping to address in the near future. We've been given the go-ahead to redevelop the building, and while we're having a certain amount of money, and the government has announced 15 million euro towards a redisplay of the building, so we're going to be in a position to change how accessible these spaces are, make them safer, make them better for people to be able to come into. We're hoping to be able to build a small building on the side, a small extension to the side of the main dead zoo, where we'll be able to provide things like lifts and additional stairs, which means that if there's ever a problem, we can actually evacuate people, and it means that we'll be able to provide much more access for people with limited mobility or pushchairs and so on. Ideally, we want to make this space as accessible as possible, and hopefully we'll be able to do that now. Birds are fantastic in the colours of the plumage and the striking, vibrant kind of nature of them, because they're very visual animals, and parrots are a really good example of that. So you can see the huge range of colours that you get. You'll get reds and blues and greens and these incredible shades of yellow, and going to the kind of ultraviolet end of the spectrum as well with these purples. And they have patches of ultraviolet colour on them. So that's something which researchers in the past have actually used the collection to research, to understand how patches of different colour, not just visible colour but also ultraviolet colour, are visible on the parrots, and how that can feed into the way in which they view each other in terms of their attractiveness to mates and so on. So one of the things that we're really keen to do when we do redisplay this whole museum will be to conserve some of the specimens, because they've been here for quite a long time. A lot of them are over 100 years. Some of them have gotten dusty. The building used to be lit with gas light, so they'll be burning gas, and so you have soot forming from that. We also have big glass ceiling which had ventilation holes all the way through it for all those fumes from the gas burning to be able to escape. And obviously then that allows dust to rain into the building. So it's quite a dusty space, and it's something which we're hoping to be able to improve as we get the roof changed in the next few years. And it means that we'll also have the opportunity to take these specimens and give them a clean. It seems like a fairly straightforward thing to just dust some specimens, but because of the nature of feathers and the way in which they hold on to dust, it's actually quite a hard job. So to do it well, you need someone who's trained and understands how feathers behave and how they kind of zip together, which is how birds manage to get this nice smooth profile which allows them to fly so effectively. So all of those things need to be taken into consideration, and this is one of the few opportunities we're going to be able to get to. We have thousands of birds on display. We have over 20,000 birds in the collection as a whole. There's a huge amount of material, and being able to look after it properly is obviously essential to our role as a museum, and it'll be a really good opportunity to get to see some of these things in their real splendour once it's all been done and we reopened to the public. The museum in Dublin, the Dead Zoo, it's a really, really cool place. A lot of people love it because it feels like a museum of a museum. We have collections which go back over 100 years, and the building itself has been here for over 160 years. And while it's a fantastic place, there are some issues with it. So for the last few years, the upper balconies have been closed to the public because of health and safety issues. They've got low balcony kind of railings, easy to fall over, not great. We have issues with not having enough stairs to be able to evacuate should there be any problems. And so as a result, we've not been able to open up the kind of top two spaces, and that's a real problem because we've got some amazing specimens up here that the public really want to be able to see. Now, I've talked about some of them before in previous videos, so you can go and take a look at those to learn more. But one of the things which we've not really talked about much will be the birds, and we have a really good collection of birds here in Dublin. So we have over 20,000 bird specimens of various sorts, representing pretty much every bird taxa in the world, maybe not every species, but every major group, certainly to a family. So one of my favourites will be the vultures, because they're just fantastic birds. My particular favourite is the bearded vulture here, or the lammergeier, which you get in places like India, up in kind of the mountains, and they feed specifically on bone, and they mostly kind of carry that up and drop it from quite a great height onto rocks where it smashes, and then they can get to the marrow on the inside. And so they're these quite remarkable birds. They're really striking, beautiful birds. And these are the sorts of specimens which we just don't get a chance to show people anymore. So the museum will be closing at some point in the next few years. We're not exactly sure when, but we know it will be probably in a couple of years' time. And the idea is that we're going to be able to build a much more accessible space whilst trying to keep the same sort of feel that we have already, this Victorian museum, but with a better roof and more access and a slightly safer space for our audiences, which will be fantastic. We're really looking forward to that. It'll also give us an opportunity to maybe swap out some of the specimens we have on display and maybe think about how we display things in a slightly more engaging way. So, instead of just having a tiny label saying what something is, we might be able to give you a bit more information, or perhaps maybe go down to the digital route and have it so you can find additional information on your phone. We don't know yet. We've only just started the process, so it's going to be an interesting few years, and we'll try to keep everyone updated about what's going on in lots of different ways. But ideally, by the end of it all, we will have a fantastic new space which will be a lot more fun, a lot more engaging, but still have that same feel that we're really, really keen to keep hold of.